Hello guys, I'm Steve with Team Covenant, joined by Zach, who you know as well, and a new face, Mark Wootton. Mark, thank you so much for being with us. Now Mark is the lead developer of Doomtown. He's kind of in charge of that project. It just launched here at GenCon. Doomtown Reloaded is officially here. It's a classic that has been essentially brought back. So Mark, tell us about your Doomtown experience. Tell us about, you get this game and it has previously had a run and it kind of failed. And then it comes back, like a lot of those early CCGs that just kind of plummeted as Magic kind of rose. So what's it like to take a property like that and then apply whatever you want to apply to it and reinvent it? Yeah.
Well, I think the big thing about Doomtown was that it was an incredibly different game when it first came out. The whole poker mechanic and the movement mechanic together was something really innovative. It was, and I think still is unique. Right?
Yeah.
There is nothing else there like it. And I mean, it was successful, really to the point where there were still people playing the original Deadlands.
Yeah.
I mean, there were people keeping it alive, maybe small in number, but it still had that following, right? And so, I played it back in the day as a player, before I was working with AEG. And I think I just came at it from that perspective. I knew I knew there was something really good there. And I just wanted to do my best with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't ask for better than that.
So you get this game, you're tasked with designing for it, right? What can you just run down the changes from old Doomtown to new Doomtown?
Wow.
Not all of them, just list some of them. Like what are big changes, right? What are the biggest changes in Doomtown?
So we changed the deck construction rules, so you can only have 4 cards of 1 suit and value. The reason we did that is we wanted to slightly redress the balance between the probability of cheating and the cheating cards. We wanted to take some of the emphasis off the player who was, if you like, on the receiving end, and create a little bit more of a kind of push your luck mechanic, so that cheating wasn't always going to be inevitable if you had a certain style of deck, and it wasn't upon the player who was defending against the cheating to have the card in hand all the time.
Do you have the cheating or not?
Do you have the cheating? No, because if you build a deck with 52 aces in it, I'm not saying that was ever a good idea in Classic Doomtown, but if you do, and your opponent hasn't got the cheating card, and you get into a situation where that's important, you're done. Whereas I think in Reloaded, what we wanted to do is we just wanted to adjust that a little bit to make sure that it was worth being ready for cheating. And if you were going to cheat, you were kind of...
You didn't want to cheat, but sometimes you have to.
Yeah, you really have got that push your luck mechanic. I think the other big change we made was the resolution of shootouts. So we kind of reduced the severity of the shootouts, which means now you basically get a dude discarded for 1 casualty or aced for 2, whereas in old Doomtown it used to be each hand rank different, you aced a dude.
Yeah.
So with those 2 changes, I think what that enabled us to do was to sort of bring a more active game to the forefront. And I think the third change I would talk about with that is we have focused very much on keeping deeds in town with control points, with abilities that are worth fighting over. So the idea really, and I think most people when they play the game, as they start to get accustomed to it, recognise that in a lot of cases the game will often start with small skirmishes, which they can afford to risk getting into, and then hopefully build towards that climactic high noon.
Yeah,
that skirmish.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that skirmish. So it's this guy over here, I can let him go. He was just and you create a situation where you're trying to bait people out of position and manoeuvre, and the changes to the deck construction, the deeds, or the deeds stroke economy, and the deck construction, and the casualty rule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those 3 combined, what we've tried to do is make the game, I suppose, more active and more, you're building a town, you're moving dudes around the town, and you're getting into gunfights.
Yeah, and having played the old one for sure, that seems to have been successfully done. I'll say just from what we've seen here in the demo that we got, it is a much more active game, and not having all that out of town stuff has made things much more engaged in that town square, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that you can't sit at home and do stuff. You can, but at some point you should need to get out there and at least try and
do things.
Try and do things.
Play a game.
Yeah, like play.
So some people are watching this and played Doomtown before and are so stoked to see it come back online in an official capacity. But other people have never heard of Doomtown. So what would you describe Doomtown to those people? What kind of a game is Doomtown, and why should people play it?
So, although it's a card game, I think it's kind of a tabletop game as well, because it's not just about the cards that you have in your hand. It's about the position that you create on the table. So what you're doing is you're using deeds to actually build an old Wild West, or in this case Weird West, town.
Yeah.
So you're physically building a town, and then you're moving your dudes around on that town. And the stuff that you've got in your hand is important, but actually the real trick in Doomtown is to understand how to get around town. So the two or more players, because it plays, I think it plays really well as a multiplayer game as well. But the two or more players are effectively making this town and then fighting for control of it. So a lot of the play, a lot of the tactics, a lot of the strategy is based on being on the table and in the town. And then the hand is really the kind of surprise factor. But if you don't figure out how you're going to control town right, and you get caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. So yeah, I would say very much tabletop. Don't think of it just as a card game. You've got to think about what's happening out there.
More positioning going on.
Yeah, I mean the board has real dimensions, right? I mean real locations. It's not kind of nebulous. The table, and that's why we provided a board when we made the game, was because we thought it would actually help people visualize. I'm sure once people get used to the game, the board will go away and it's you just play it on the table. But we wanted the board because we felt that it would help people visualize that early.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful board. All the components for this game look top notch.
Yeah, we really
Just
wanted
excellent.
to make sure that it was. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to bring back a classic, you've got to do it right. And Doomtown was a classic, and we want it to be a classic again.
So can you tell us a little bit about the movement itself? So for the older Doomtown players and the ones picking up the game, the movement is kind of the trickiest part to get a hold of, like you were talking about. And we got a demo and played some games with Todd a little bit. And so the booting mechanic, so this is where you essentially exhaust or tap the guy, and you got this string of characters and they're going different places. So what's the general rule? I know we were talking about it a little earlier for how to move within town, right?
So basically, probably the easiest way to think of it is the opposite way around, which is if you want to move from one place to another, you boot.
Yeah.
In Doomtown, if you want to move from one place to another place, you have to boot your dude. But there are two specific exceptions to that. If you're moving from your home to either the town square or one of the deeds adjacent to your home, you don't boot. If you're moving to the town square, from the town square to any adjacent location other than moving back to your home,
which is any in-town deed.
Any in-town deed, you don't boot. But those are the only two exceptions. If you move from deed to deed, you boot. If you move from in-town to out of town, you boot.
And you can move from one of my deeds to one of his deeds.
Yeah, move from one of my deeds, exactly, you boot. So really, there's only two exceptions. And there's two reasons for the way it's done, right? First of all, you want to make the town square important. And particularly with our focus on in-town deeds, the town square is important. Maybe not worth dying over, but it's important.
But it matters.
But it matters. And so you have that thing where, one of the ideas is very much to try and, you can move out to a deed, not with the intention of controlling it, but with the intention of forcing the other guy to come out there to get control back again. Because you now know that his next move is going to boot him.
Yeah.
So you're actually trying to bait people out of position, and that's why the booting, not booting mechanic is important. The second reason, and people have said, why can't you just move without booting, is obviously you want to limit the amount of moves people can make, so that you can never get a turn where you can just keep moving a dude without ever booting and stall it out. Which is
it makes perfect sense.
All right, so people are really excited about this game, and I'm sure if there were players here, they'd be just dying to ask a couple questions about the future of the game.
Okay.
So you guys are doing the saddlebags, which are the packs of cards twice every 4 to 6 weeks, right? I think I saw that.
I think we're right now about 6 weeks, so that's what, 3 every...
Like 2 every quarter?
6 weeks is roughly 6 weeks.
Roughly 6 weeks. So what should players expect? Where are you taking this game? Where are we saddling up for? Like what can you tell us about the future of this game?
Sure. Well, the first is fairly obvious from the rules. For example, we're going to have different spell types.
Yeah.
So we've got hexes in the base game, but obviously as we expand into the future, not for the first few saddlebags, but later on we're going to go with, we've already got Miracles worked out in the Blessed Dudes. I'm going to take that in a direction based on the story, because the thing about Doomtown is it always had a very rich story to tell. And we want people to get engaged with what's happening in there. It's not just a case of, I'm going to play this faction. We do like at age to get people kind of really engaged in what the story is.
We approve.
Yeah.
So good. So we're gonna explore the Blessed Dudes. I think we've got a lot more that we can do with gadgets. That's another area we want to look at. I mean, I've got a few ideas. I've got a few ideas. I shouldn't say we have got a few ideas. And when I say we, I mean myself and the rest of the designer and story team. That we just haven't fully fleshed out yet.
Yeah.
Which we can't talk about, but.
That's fine.
I think the thing is, there's actually a lot of space. There really is a lot of space to explore. The first few saddlebags, we're going to definitely expand on the gadgets. We want to make gadgets more active, more diverse.
Yeah.
And then we're planning after the first few saddlebags to bring out what we call the pine box.
Nice.
Bigger box.
Which is going to be bigger, yeah, and that's the place where we start exploring new themes.
Nice.
So the idea really is that the saddlebags will sort of build on the themes that came before, and the pine box, because it's going to have more unique cards in it, it's going to have 40 unique cards in it. That gives us an opportunity to introduce new mechanics or new ideas or a new direction for a particular faction or outfit,
Yeah, I was going to say, in the old game, there were more than 4 factions or outfits, right? And you may not be able to answer this.
Oh, yes.
I'm just curious, is it reasonable to expect that you guys might add outfits to the game?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's something we're probably the best thing to say is it's something we're actively talking about, because I think we don't just want to add factions because we can. We want them to have a good story, and we want to have a good story with a good mechanical direction in the game.
So when someone comes to town, you want it to matter.
Yeah. It needs to matter for the gameplay, and it needs to matter for the story. It needs not to just to be let's do the faction. And then you have to think about how you can support those with the kind of release model that we've got, because the saddlebags are quite small, so you want to be able to you want to make sure that if we do it, that we can support it properly in terms of the way the release program works, so that the fans are always getting something that they, that they want. Right? I mean, that's important. So, but I mean, we are. What I will say is we are actively talking about additional factions, what we might want to do with them, and how we do it. In the same way that we're actually talking about new card types. I mean, that's not something we're going to rule out.
Sure.
Some of it may hark back to things that happened in old Doomtown. Some of it may happen. Maybe new things that happen, just completely new ideas that were never explored in classic Doomtown.
Yeah. So I have to ask, probably the last thing that's really on my mind is, as the company that has done all this with L5R and had the tournaments actually mean something in terms of the game, is that anything that you're considering with Doomtown, or is that just a completely separate entity?
Yeah. So at the moment it's largely separate. Our plan with Doomtown is that we still want to tell a rich story. But the points of interaction where the players will change that story will be more limited. That doesn't mean they won't exist, but it does mean they'll be more limited. Yeah.
Nice.
Not as often or widespread.
Yeah. We're not. We can't really go down the L5R road with it. So we will be telling. There will still be fictions, but we're not planning on doing as much of it. We want to tell it in small, bite-sized pieces that hopefully really pop and really get people's attention, and then we'll probably have a couple of points during the year, places like GenCon or maybe some of the big events in Europe where there might be an opportunity for a particular thing to be influenced.
Sure. Excellent.
I have one more question for you on my end. As a game designer, I just want to get your take on this. We play a lot of card games, and there's a lot of philosophies for all the different designers out there. And I'm curious where you stand on the whole idea of like a color wheel, or like as a balancing mechanic, right? Where you give some factions, they're good at certain things, or they're better at certain things than others. What are your thoughts on that concept? And does it even apply to Doomtown? Like, is Sloan Gang going to be the best at X, and they're going to be the one that has the most of X for the most of time? Is that
To an extent, yes. So I'll talk specifically about Doomtown because that's probably better. I think what we want to do is we want to create a situation where, although there can be some overlap, even where the factions, one particular outfit is maybe using hucksters, they may have the best group of hucksters across the board, but another faction might have hucksters that are good in particular situations. So I think, that's like L5R. We do the same thing, right? I mean, when we look at Legend of the Five Rings, the Phoenix have most Shigenjas and they have the most versatile Shigenjas in the same way that at the moment the Fourth Ring have got the most hucksters. And that will probably continue to be the case. But some of the existing outfits, or maybe a new one, may get hucksters who are better in certain circumstances. So I think that for me, it's about creating an identity again. It's a combination of a mechanical and a story identity. You want the factions to have a different feel when you play them. Yeah. I don't think it's just for me anyway with Doomtown, it's more holistic than just talking about balance. There is a balance, right? Some outfits are going to be better at playing shooting than others. Yes. Some outfits are going to be better economically. Some outfits are going to be better at spells. But it's more holistic than simply saying one balance the other. It's about trying to create that feel that you're actually in a shootout. And when you're playing the Morgan Cattler Company, you've got the best mad scientists and the best access to money. Yeah. That doesn't mean anything if the Sloan Gang get you out of position and come gunning for you, or they're taking control of the town by intimidating everybody, and you're building your gadgets and they're sitting in the town square going, I got control. You can't just sit there. So I think it's a combination of balance, it's a combination of identity, and it's a combination of just kind of feel, for want of a better term. So there will be overlap, but
mindful overlap.
Yes.
Mark, I've never been more certain that a game is in really good hands. So thank you so much for having a chat with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And good luck with the rest of GenCon. We know it's going to be successful for you.
You guys enjoy yourselves.
All right, take care.